My name's Alex Werner. I'm the head of the History Collections department. This is one of the world's largest port archives. It relates to the history of London's docks. There were lots of different private dock companies, and all the archives survive for those companies. The Port Archive collection can tell us so much about the development of London. You think of the whole of the eastern part of London is integral to the building of docks in the 19th century, but it's also a collection that can speak a lot about the commerce, the trade, the river, and I suppose more the financial city. So when visitors come into the Museum of London Docklands, they have an opportunity also to find out more about the history of the port and the river in the Sainsbury Study Centre. And that's also a facility that looks at the history of the Sainsbury retailing company. An incredibly important archive to do with the history of retailing and product development and how we shop and things like that. So it's a really important collection. In the Museum of Docklands, one of the most important galleries is the London Sugar and Slavery Gallery that looks at the history of the slave trade and of the West India dock and how it was linked to that trade. And there are two new archives that have just been acquired in the last few years. The Mills Papers relates to plantation owner and slave owners in the Caribbean, and a new, even more recent acquisition, the Romney Papers, which is another big archive looking at plantation and slave owners. The Photographic Collection is one of the main attractions, a collection of about 50,000 photographs showing you how the docks were constructed, how they operated, all the different cargoes that came into the docks. This is one of the key collections that not only the general public is interested in, but researchers can gather a lot of information from those images. Obviously, people who are interested in maritime history and port history. An enormous number of people worked in the docks, so the collections have been mined for lots of information to do with labour history. The Port of London Authority has responsibility for the River Thames as well, and there are records going back to the late 18th century that cover all the things going on the river, the conservancy of the river. There is a specific study being written at the moment just on one of the docks, the West India dock. There are individual historians who've been looking at the modern period of the port, the operation of the port. We get researchers from all over the world coming in to access the collection. There is an enormous collection of legal documents relating to the moment when the private dock companies bought up all the land to build the docks. Now, locked away in those 17th and 18th century deeds is the history of East London before the docks were built. And I think that would be an incredible research project. Both the Mills Papers and the Romney Archives present great opportunities for further research. The museum is very interested in the links between London and the Caribbean, and between the transatlantic slave trade and the plantation economy. Elements of the archive are on display in the Museum of London Docklands. So there are lots of objects from our collections that sit alongside the archive material. The archive is heavily used. I suppose the first point of call is the Museum of London Docklands website, and you'll be able to find on the website how to make an appointment with the archivist